All right, so let's talk about the Federal Reserve. America's central bank is in an incredibly tricky position right now. Think of it like a high-stakes tightrope walk. On one side, you've got a slowing economy, and on the other, stubborn, sticky inflation. And right when they needed to see where they were going the most, well, the lights went out. We're going to break down this huge gamble the Fed is taking.
Yeah, an inflection point. That's a quote you really got to pay attention to. So what does it mean? It means we are right at this critical moment, a turning point, where one single decision could send the entire economy in a completely different direction, for better or, for worse. And the folks trying to steer the ship, they are walking an incredibly fine line.
Okay, so to really get a handle on all this drama, you first have to understand what the Fed's mission even is. See, it's not just one job. It's this constant balancing act between two forces that are basically pulling in opposite directions. And honestly, even on a good day, it's a total tightrope walk. And this is what's known as the dual mandate. It's this two-part mission that Congress handed them. Job number one, keep prices stable. That just means keeping inflation low and steady, right around a 2% target. And job number two, keep as many Americans working as possible, maximum employment. But here's the rub, right? The very tools you use to fight inflation, well, they can slow down the job market. And the things you do to boost jobs, those can pour fuel on the inflation fire. It's a fundamental conflict. And you know what? Right now, that balancing act is tougher than it's ever been. Why? Because the U.S. economy is sending out these completely contradictory signals. It's kind of like a patient with a fever and the chills at the exact same time. It puts the Fed in a serious bind. And this is the ultimate catch-22 for them. Look, on one hand, the job market is definitely weakening. The standard playbook for that is easy. You lower interest rates to get the economy going again. But, on the other hand, inflation is still stubbornly high, and the fix for that is to raise interest rates to cool things down. So what on earth do you do when the solution for one problem makes the other problem even worse? It's a real dilemma. And look, let's be super clear here. Inflation is still a very real problem. The Fed's target, their goal, is 2%. But core inflation, that's sitting at 2.9%. And services inflation, which can be really sticky, is even higher at 3.4%. The main takeaway here is that they are nowhere near ready to declare victory on this front. Not even close. So just to recap, the Fed is already juggling this split personality economy and a super tough decision. And then, just to make things, a million times harder, a brand new crisis hits. And this one took away the single most important thing they have: information. And what was that crisis? Well, on October 1st, the US government shut down. And just like that, a really difficult job became a nearly impossible one. You can think of the Fed as pilots trying to land this massive, complicated economic plane, and suddenly their cockpit windows just got blacked out. I mean, that quote says it all, doesn't it? The worst time for the Fed to be flying blind. At the exact moment when the economy is at this crucial turning point, the people in charge can't even see their own instruments anymore. So what does flying blind actually mean in practice? Well, it means the government agencies that crank out all the most critical economic data, they've just gone dark. We're talking about the monthly jobs report, the monthly inflation report, all that key data from the Bureau of Economic Analysis, the Census Bureau. Poof, it's all gone. The very gauges they need to make these massive, multi-trillion-dollar decisions are just offline. Okay, so all of this is building up to one central conflict, because even without the data, a decision on interest rates has to be made. And that's kicked off this huge debate, basically pitting the expectations of Wall Street against some really serious caution coming from inside the Fed itself. So on one side of this debate, you've got the market. We're talking financial traders, Wall Street. They are so convinced the Fed is going to cut interest rates to help out the weakening economy that they've actually priced in 100% probability of a cut happening in October. As far as they're concerned, it is a done deal. But then you have the view from inside the Fed. And this comes from Dallas Fed President Lori Logan, who was speaking right before the shutdown. And she's basically saying, whoa, not so fast. Her worry is that with inflation still too high and the economy still showing some strength, cutting rates now could be like pouring gasoline on a fire that they're still desperately trying to put out. So there you have it. That's the debate in a nutshell. The argument for cutting rates is all about risk management, right? The labor market's getting weaker, a long shutdown could really hurt things, and hey, the markets are practically begging for it. But the argument for being cautious is just as compelling.
Inflation is not down to 2%, demand is still pretty strong, and if they cut too soon, they could risk reigniting those price hikes all over again. And this all brings us to the final, really high-stakes decision. And you have to remember, this isn't just some academic debate for economists. The choice the Fed makes next is going to have a direct, real-world impact on jobs, on the cost of your mortgage, your car loan, pretty much on the health of the entire economy. This timeline really just lays it all out, piece by piece. On September 30th, you have a key Fed official urging caution. The very next day, October 1st, the government shuts down, and all that crucial data just vanishes. So now, all eyes are on October 29th. That's when the committee meets and they have to make a choice, whether they have the information they need or not. And so this is where we're left. You've got an economy pulling in two completely different directions. You have a committee of experts who are themselves divided on what to do. And now the very data they would use to settle the argument is gone. So the big question is, how can they possibly make the right choice? That's the tightrope they're walking, and believe me, the entire economy is watching and holding its breath, just waiting to see if they can make it to the other side.